In this video, I'll be going through how to use Porydaw, which is a new program that's a music editor for the Pokemon Gen 3 decomp projects. So Poke Emerald, Poke Fire Red, Poke Ruby. Music programs tend to be pretty complicated, so I'm hoping that if you've never worked in a digital audio workstation before, this will hopefully be helpful. For those of you who are already really familiar with DAWs, a lot of this should be pretty familiar. We've tried to bring a lot of like expected power user functionality into this program, at least for the initial release, and we'll be adding more in the future, of course. So I have my keyboard presses and mouse presses showing up in the top right corner of the screen, so I won't be calling out keyboard shortcuts throughout this video, but you can see what hotkeys I'm using as I go. Cool, so I have a vanilla Poke Emerald repo here that we'll be using. So to start out, you simply open projects, choose the folder for your project. So Poke Emerald is what I'll be using. I'm running the Windows executable for Porydaw and opening a WSL project. So you can see that it's you can use Windows together with WSL, and it's not a problem in terms of slowness or anything like that. So the first thing you'll see when you open a project is all of the songs in the song list in the top left corner. They're sorted by ID. You can filter with Control F. You can filter to just certain prefixes. We'll just open Little Root Town. Double click on it to open it, and then in this area, you'll see all of the tracks and MIDI notes of the song, as well as all of the MIDI CC events, so things like mod wheel and volume, all of the kind of effects and settings that can change in a track over the course of the song. So again, in this view right here, we see all of the different tracks listed. Background music can have up to 10, I think, by default. In Vanilla Emerald, this literally has 9. You can just click through them to highlight and focus each channel individually. You can see the ghosted notes of all the other tracks in this area, which is helpful to see. And of course, the notes of the currently selected track kind of come to the foreground, and you can interact with them. You can use the scroll wheel, mouse scroll wheel, and middle mouse to pan around and zoom in, zoom out, all that kind of expected behavior. To play and listen to any song, you can use any of the buttons in the top left corner, or you can use the space bar is the main way to play and pause music. Whoops. Now, the whole point of Porydaw is that it sounds effectively identical to how it will sound in game. So you no longer need to tweak your MIDI file, recompile the game, re-listen to the song, and then kind of do that over and over and over until it eventually sounds exactly how you want it to. With Porydaw, it's going to sound effectively exactly what it's going to sound like in game. So no need to recompile over and over. So let's just listen to Little Red for a few seconds. Yep, sounds great. If we want to solo or mute tracks, there's little buttons in each track header here. So if we only wanted to listen to the flute, we can click the solo button or use S hotkey. If we want to mute it, we can click the mute button. And then, like you would be able to expect from a program like this, you can modify all the notes to your liking. So we just zoom in and maybe change the lead-in notes here, descend into the melody. You can delete notes, obviously, by selecting them. So, I don't know, that sounds nice. Every note, of course, has its own velocity, which is independent from overall volume. To modify the velocity, you can kind of position your mouse over that horizontal bar and drag down or up. To select multiple notes, you can just right-click and do a rectangular selection. You can modify all of them at the same time. You can position them all at the same time, all that kind of expected stuff. There's even helpful hotkeys for nudging notes up and down like this, or even for full octaves if you hold down Shift. And then of course you can draw in notes by clicking. If you want to change the grid resolution, you can come up here to these little buttons. If you do 1/4 or 1/4 is how you would say it, the grid lines will only show up on every quarter note, no matter how far you zoom in. So that just kind of makes it really easy to visualize if you're only filling in quarter notes. Auto will kind of change depending on how far you're zoomed in, and the smallest resolution is 1/96th, which is just how the M4A audio engine works. And of course, if you want triplets, you can change. You can choose between straight and triplet here. So like if I want 8th note triplets, I'd be able to just follow the grid, and that gives me triplets. All of this, but pretty much everything in this program supports undo and redo, Control Z and Control Y. It's very, very helpful. Let's actually, I want to have those notes at the beginning still. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I think that kind of covers that area. I guess one big thing here is loop markers. So if you want the song to loop, you just need to, you can right click and choose set loop start, set loop end. They appear as these kind of like glowing brackets, so you can easily see where the loop boundaries are. Another cool shortcut, which is useful in niche circumstances, is you right click and right click up here, and this will select everything in that time region, and you can hold down Control and select multiple tracks. So if I wanted to copy everything in that time region from these 4 selected tracks, I would just make this blue selection like that, copy, and then I'll just paste it over here so you can see. Oops. Let's see, there's some nice settings here that can, it depends on your preferences, but I like to use color notes by velocity. So instead of using the tracks color for the notes, it will color notes based on their individual velocities. So like soft velocities are more blue, and then it goes all the way up to bright for the loudest possible velocity. Another really helpful thing is show note names. So I have it on, I've had it on this whole video, but it tells you what the note names are in each, inside each note rectangle if you're zoomed in enough. Just makes it easy to tell what notes are at a glance. You could use, the keyboard, the piano keyboard over here too. Another really helpful one is follow playhead. So if it's playing and the follow playhead is disabled, it won't automatically scroll the screen for this red bar. So there, it just kind of automatically jumped. But you can disable it with this setting. And that just makes it easy for you to, if you're zoomed in really far and you're like tweaking some section, you want to hear how it sounds, but you don't want to keep scrolling back. It's just a very convenient way. Okay, what does that bring us to next? Oh yes, of course. You can also name tracks whatever you want. So just double click on the track name, or you can right click, rename track. You can reorder tracks too. So just click and drag. It will not maintain the track color, but you can see my cool track is moving down. Okay, so let's move away from this piano roll area down to this section on the bottom half of the screen. This is called the automation lanes. Like I said before, these are all of the effects over time that apply to the notes being played on the track. Tempo is special because there's only one tempo for the whole song. So it just always shows up here. But if you want to change the tempo, basically, if you want to change any of these values, you come in and you click and drag, or just click for single points. you can right click to delete any point. So like if we wanted to do a slow down and a speed up for the tempo, you know, we could do something like this. Okay, that wasn't a very good example. Like this. And then voice is the next like most important one, I would say, for each track, because that determines what instrument or voice is playing. So on this first track, we can see over here in the track header that it displays the current voice also. So it's using voice index 48, which is the strings key split voice. You can also see that here. So we see at the very start of the song, it sets strings. But if we wanted to change the voice midway through the song, we could do that. We can set it to, I guess, what's the funny one? Pizzicato strings. So that's how you change voices during the song. The vanilla songs in the game do a lot of that. Some other lanes that you can modify are the mod wheel. So if you set it really high, you know, it's going to make the vibrato kind of ridiculous. Volume, of course, that's literally just how loud it is. It's combined with the velocity of the notes. So if we wanted to do a fade in, there's a neat shortcut you can do. You can hold down Shift and then draw a straight line. So if we wanted this to, you know, build up its volume over a few measures, we can do that. And then, of course, you know, all these things are controllable, all these different lanes. So pan is left, right. I won't go over all these. It's an exercise to the reader. Pitch bend is also pretty useful. I mean, that sounded horrible, but you can do kind of, you know, slides up to notes, that kind of thing. If you want to clear a lane, just right click on it, clear events, or delete the lane completely. You can also copy. So like if I wanted to copy this little volume fade out right here, I would just hold down the right mouse button, Control C, and then I can paste that wherever I want. You can also copy across multiple lanes. So if I wanted to copy the modulation and the volume over a time region, just drag over both of them, copy, paste. So pretty flexible there. I think that brings us to the voice group section down here. Every song has a voice group assigned to it, and there are up to 128 instruments or voices in that voice group. Most songs only use, you know, a handful, 5 to 10 voices, and to make it easy to tell which ones are actually used by the song, Porydaw will highlight each row that actually is for an instrument that's used in the song. So we can see that drum set, piano, these 4 square waves are used, fretless bass, pizzicato strings. You get the idea. These are all previewable by clicking on them. And they are also editable down here. So if we want to, what's a good example? Let's focus on track 1 here, since this is the main melody at the start of the song. So let's modify this flute. Let's say we don't want it to be flute at all and use a completely different sample. You just click on that and it'll bring up all the different samples you can use. So maybe trumpet. And let's use a different one. Let's try accordion. And since this is just a raw sample and not a key split voice, we can change the volume envelope too. So attack, decay, sustain, release. That's what ADSR stands for. If we wanted to kind of fade in, we would give it a lower attack value, so like 40. And again, you can preview this. Let's give it even lower. So now it kind of fades in. And this all takes place live, so you could change it while you're listening. Yep, so let's revert those changes. Again, this is also undoable with Control Z. Basically anything you can edit will be part of that undo stack. Let's redo those. Nope, looks like I lost them. Oh, where'd the flute go? Oh, I reordered everything, that's right. Bear with me for a second. All right, let's make these edits again. Now, I've made edits to the beginning of this song, right? It's coming down. If I want to actually save that, I can do File, Save Song, or I can just Control S. Now at this point, all the changes have been written to your decomp project. If we take a look at the git diff, whoops. Yeah, so we can see the MIDI file has changed, and it contains those 3 new notes that I just added. So let's just let's make a few more edits and then preview it in game to make sure it's sounding like we expect it to. So we'll change it from flute to a bass, I guess. Yeah, that sounds horrible. Let's pick a different one. Where's that? Yeah, where's the this one? Sure. And then let's add like a bunch of modulation. And then let's add some different drums. Wait, are there any drums? Oh, they don't come until later. Let's just add a little beat at the beginning. Let's try to make a beat under pressure. Okay, this is terrible. Let's not make a beat right now. Let's just hit save. So we changed the MIDI file, but we also changed the voice group. So we should expect to see that in our git diff too. And there we can see the little root voice group has that new entry instead of the flute. So I'll just compile and we'll listen to it in game. Make sure it sounds right. There we can hear our different notes at the beginning, as well as the different instrument instead of the flute. Cool. If you want to choose a different voice group for the song, you can choose from any existing voice group here. You can also click this new button to create a brand new voice group. Okay. I guess the next important thing that you should know about is song settings and engine settings. So engine settings is kind of like it's the project level configuration that sometimes people change. So in the vanilla games, you can only have 5 direct sound channels playing at the same time. But a lot of people, especially when they integrate the iPatix's high quality mixer, they will increase this limit, sometimes all the way up to 12. So if you've done that, Porydaw won't automatically detect that, at least today. You have to change it here first. Same thing for the direct sound mix rate. A lot of times people will increase that if they're using the HQ mixer. And so you can just choose the correct sample rate for your project. Song settings is effectively what gets put in the MIDI.config file in the decomp project. So it just specifies the voice group, the master volume for it, and the reverb. Everything else you're probably not going to pay too close attention to, except for maybe priority. All of the songs in the vanilla games use a reverb of 50. Cool. Okay, the next very cool thing is the ability to import custom samples. So if you wanted to add like a new instrument to the game, this is how you would do it. So I have some pre-tested samples here. So you can import MP3 files, OGG files, WAV files, and even samples from sound font files. So if a lot of people like to go to websites and download sound fonts from like other games, the .sf2 extension. And so Porydaw can handle those, and it's pretty cool. And it's really easy to import samples from other games. So like, I think this one was an Animal Crossing sound font. So let's just import the clarinet, I guess. So in this sample editor view, you'll see a waveform of that imported sample. You can play it with spacebar, or you can press this play button. If the sample is looped, you click this checkbox, loop this sample. And then the blue bars over here indicate what the loop range is. So anything between those two bars will get played infinitely as long as the note is held down. Now, a really important thing for looping is that you want it to be click-free. So it has to be like a smooth loop, because if you just pick some random locations, it's going to sound really bad. So let's see what this sounds like. You can hear kind of like a clicking sound. And that's because the end of this, the end of that loop region doesn't like flow into the start of it in a smooth manner. And that's what we call the seam in this UI right here. So it says seam click. Porydaw tries to help you out and make it really easy to find the seamless loops and samples. Now, this sample right here isn't a great example because it came from an existing sound font and it already has a great loop at the start. But let's pretend like we were starting from scratch and we didn't know what a good loop was. Porydaw lets you kind of like automatically find them and find a good loop. So click try another loop. Okay, so it's identified this range maybe is pretty good. There's a little clicking there, so we can click refine. It'll get a little better. And if you want really smoothing, you can crossfade the start and end together. And usually this makes it very smooth. So this one is actually still not very smooth, so this must be like a really bad loop region. So let's try another one. And that sounds decent. For some reason, it's not finding a great sample or a great loop point automatically with this sample. So we can go and try another one after this. The other thing is you can import samples with any bass key, right? So if I were to, say, sing a note and add my own voice to the game, I've done that. That's what this ooh test file is. So when I created this this sample by recording in another program, I sang an F sharp note, and Porydaw actually detects that automatically. So it says the bass key is F sharp right here. But when it actually plays it back, it's going to be playing this middle C note instead. So if we just like move this down to F sharp, this is actually what it sounds like in the bass file. So let's find a loop for this because I want to actually use it in the song as a looped sample. So okay, that was actually very good. Like it's a clean seam. It's using the crossfade here, so we'll just use that. We'll also choose a sample rate of 13K. That's like kind of a sweet spot of, it doesn't take up too much ROM space, and it's it's not higher than the sample rate of the actual M4A mixer. So advanced just shows you a bunch of other stuff that you don't really need to worry about unless you're really interested. Cool, so I now have a sample called ooh test. Let's change the melody on track 1 to use that sample. All right, where's ooh test? There it is. very high, so maybe I'll just put it down an octave. Another octave. Maybe put the volume way up. Cool, and then if we save it, we should be able to hear my voice in-game now by recompile. If we also look at git status, we'll see, you know, there's a new wave file added. Let's listen to that. So cool, that's how you import a sample. I think the last piece I'll show here, no, there's two more pieces. Okay, the MIDI event list. We won't go into the details here, but if you enable the MIDI event list, you can also use a shortcut to show it. This is just like the raw MIDI event list for the track that you're currently looking at. You might want to use this to have like really fine control over, say, like the order of CC events, or maybe you want to manually input an X command. The only way to use X commands right now would be to manually type them in and insert events here. So you can delete events in here, you can insert events, you can drag and reorder within the same tick. It also, like, you can see what the current note is, like, based on where you are in the song. Just like highlights differently. So this is kind of a power user feature right here. The last thing is the polyphony debugger. So earlier I mentioned, you know, there's a maximum number of simultaneous direct sound channels that can play at any given time. So like if you wanted to play, you know, 7 piano notes simultaneously, it's not possible unless you have, you know, a polyphony limit configured higher than 7 in your song settings or in your engine settings. But 5 is the default, so it's not possible to play 7 piano notes together. And it's not always obvious, you know, if you're violating those limits while the song is playing or like what you've written. And so the polyphony debugger makes it really obvious when you've violated those rules and some of your audio is being inadvertently dropped or skipped. So I'll play the song, we'll see what happens here. So we can see that a bunch of tracks have tail cut events. So what that means is when a song or when a voice is playing and it's released, like because its note finished playing, if it has a release in the ADSR of greater than 0, then that means it will continue to ring and play as it fades out, even though the note is already over. So the tail cut event just means that that extra fade out was cut off because there were too many other notes playing. And that's typically okay. Like every single song has lots of tail cuts going on. The bigger issues are dropped where like a note just completely doesn't even get to play at all, or if it gets cut off midway through the duration of it. So you want to watch out for dropped and cut off notes here. Most of the vanilla songs are pretty good about not violating these constraints, but some of them do. So let's like intentionally violate this now and see kind of what happens. So I'm just going to draw a bunch of notes, right? There's like 8 overlapping notes here. So we can see, you know, that there are a bunch of cut off and dropped notes here. That means like some of these notes or some of the notes on other tracks, you know, didn't play because there were so many simultaneous notes. So like ideally we'd want to fix those because it means, you know, if you're making the music yourself, you intended for these notes to be playing, but they're not. So if you want to hear, if you want to hear what that sounds like, you can check the solo overflow button, and what we'll hear is only the audio that is getting cut off. So it makes it like really obvious if whole notes are being cut out, and you can quickly zero in on them and understand how big of an issue it is. You can also double click on these events and it'll take you exactly to the note that was affected. So like, oh, this note was dropped. Well, it was this note right here. So let's listen to the solo overflow mode. So we could see, you know, in here that something was wrong. There's way too many notes, and of course it's because I drew lots of overlapping notes on purpose. Okay, so that's the polyphony debugger. Let's see, is there anything else I'm missing here? Keyboard shortcuts, you can, you know, it supports custom mapping of all the different keyboard shortcuts. So if you're coming from a different DAW and you have preferred shortcuts, you can change them. You can also export a WAV file of the song if you just like want to render out the song as a standalone audio file. And then lastly, you can change the theme of Porydaw. There's 3 baked in themes: light theme, dark theme, also dark theme, and then there's like a custom 2-tone theme you can do. So yeah. I'm realizing I forgot to cover a very important feature, which is the ability to import MIDI files. So a lot of people like to you know, take pre-existing MIDI files, especially from other video games, and insert them into their own game. So if you go to File, Import MIDI, and then select whatever MIDI file you want, we'll do the Great Fairy Fountain from Zelda. This wizard will kind of walk you through setting up the MIDI file. A lot of existing MIDI files are not going to be like fully compatible with the Pokemon engine. For example, they might have like way too many simultaneous notes for, you know, the polyphony limits like we were talking about earlier, or they'll have too many tracks. So a lot of times you'll have to do a bunch of massaging after you import the MIDI file. So we'll give it a name here. You know, decide if it's a sound effect or background music, and then choose a voice group, or you can create a brand new voice group for the song. For now, we'll just choose an existing one, and then we'll hit finish. And so at this point, it is now in the game. Like this has been saved to the decomp files. So if we go look at git status again, you know, we can see the new MIDI files here. We can see that the Great Fairy Fountain has been added to, you know, char map, the constant files, load script. It will fully compile right now. But it's going to sound horrible right now if we listen to it, because presumably all of the voices are just going to be nonsense. So yeah, we got a drum set, we got 2 square waves. So let's just change these all to pianos and see what they end up. See if it can sound decent. So that sounds pretty good actually already. You can see down here in the other events lane, you know, there's tons of stuff that it's kind of complaining about, and I guess there's lots of, you know, note off MIDI events that don't have corresponding note on. So, you know, Porydaw is doing the best it can with this file. But yeah, like I said, a lot of external MIDI files that you import are going to have kind of funny issues that you'll have to deal with manually if you want it to really sound good. I was going to check out the polyphony debugger for this song just to kind of show how a lot I bet there's a lot of issues with too many simultaneous notes in this song. Yeah, so as we can see and hear, you know, there's lots of notes that are being cut off, but that's kind of the fun. Then you go through and massage the files until they sound good. But yeah, it just goes to show how easy it is to import new MIDI files. And then let's just save the changes here and go update Little Root Town to use this new song. Hurry up, VS Code. I'm just setting Root's background music to. Okay. And there we have it. One thing I forgot to do here is put in loop points. So presumably we do something like set loop end here and start over here, wherever the correct spot is. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.